Hey, what is up guys? It is your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be talking about Dawnbreaker. Funny enough, I never made a video on her. I don't really know why. You know, the hero is incredibly strong, but I think when the patch came out, I was just so engrossed on all the different builds you could do on all the different heroes. But let's talk about Dawnbreaker and why, if you want to win MMR, you should just pick this hero. We're going to be looking at a mid-Dawnbreaker game, but frankly, all the information you're going to be learning in this video will be applicable to every single Dawnbreaker game.
So, without further ado, go get your GameLeap sub if you haven't already. I know there's a bunch of you who watch these videos for free. I barely can live, alright? I barely can live. I'm running out of Pokemon cards to open, and therefore, if you guys don't get a GameLeap sub, I'm not going to be able to open any cards, and therefore, that will be a large problem. So, yeah, go do that, subscribe to the channel, and let's get into it.
Alright, so the first thing is a bit of a side note. Now, I guess not all the information is going to apply because the first point doesn't, but a bit of a mid lane specific thing. This is a build I've been seeing going around that's primarily focuses on getting your bottle before the 2-minute mark. You go 2 branches, a fairy fire, and a quelling. Some people go 3 branches and a quelling, or just 2 branches and a quelling, and the idea is that, yeah, you need to get the bottle before 2 minutes, as there are now water runes, and therefore, that's exactly what Sammy Boy will be doing here as he plays the mid lane. Now, getting into Dawnbreaker, you're one of the most dominant level 1 heroes in the game. With high armor, high movement speed, high damage, and some of the highest level 1 damage spells in the game, as well as mobility, you can always kill people. So what's the case in the mid lane? What do you want to do? You almost always want to shove the enemy's lane into them, and then go on them, right? And so you'll see in this upcoming clip here, he's always going to be looking for opportunities to pounce on the Storm. Now, Storm is one of those type of heroes where if you do hop on him, he's going to pop remnants and turn. And you'll see that in this case, even though Dawnbreaker is extremely strong, he will posture, right? You can see he walks down looking for the Storm to overextend and kind of just zoning him off the range creep. Next, let's briefly talk about spell casting on this hero. So, for anyone who doesn't know what the spells do at all, which I think most people probably do by now, your Q makes you spin around 3 times, the first 2 hits do damage, the third one stuns. Then your W, you throw an axe, it does damage on the way there, it does damage on the way back, and it leaves a fire trail on the way back that does damage and slows, and if you want to, you can pull yourself halfway to the hammer, which you'll see here. Leads him with the hammer on the gank, pulls himself forward. When the Veno is slowed up by the fire trail, he secures the kill with the Q. And this is basically the combo you're going to do the entire game with Dawnbreaker, as the hero's damage basically entirely relies on her spells. You know, any hero that's designed like this, like these clunky, I don't want to call her clunky, but like, I don't know, semi-clunky melee strength heroes, they really rely on landing their spells to do damage, right? This is just one of those heroes that has to hit their spells, and so if you're gonna pick this hero, the first thing you need to do to get really competent is never mess up this combo. You can never mess up this combo. If you're messing up the W into Q in the early game against heroes that obviously cannot easily get out of the way or cancel your Q, keep in mind your spin can get canceled. So if you're playing against the Dawnbreaker, heroes like Nyx can easily stop the Q, Lions, Hexes, anything of the sort. On top of that, we're going to see a really nice rotation here. Anytime you're playing Dawnbreaker, you have to be looking at the map 24/7. Now, that's something you always have to do in Dota in general, but the best ganks are when the enemy team is committing onto your heroes. These are the best Dawnbreaker situations. The second best is where you have a stun on your team, a hero like Storm Spirit that can zip in and stun to guarantee your ulti. But the best, at least in my opinion, are these, where the enemy team overextends onto a hero like AA, and I love his fight execution here. So let's take a look. He walks behind the Veno and looks for a 2-man W before throwing it out. Right, your hero in the early game, I'm not going to say you do a limited amount of damage because you do an insane amount of damage, but if you don't hit 2 3-man Ws when you max the spell, as you often will as a core, you're going to miss out on the majority of your damage. The next thing I'd like to say is that your hero isn't much of a farmer. The funny thing is, you're actually really good at clearing creep waves. Your W and Q can easily kill a creep wave. However, the biggest advantage you have in the early game is your roaming potential. So don't be afraid and to pick this hero when your team in specific has a lot of heroes that are very greedy. As a support, as a core, it doesn't really matter. What you want to do with this hero is get active, right? Get active early, abuse the fact that most heroes just simply cannot fight you. If you don't take advantage of this power spike, you're basically missing out on the main reason why you should pick Dawnbreaker. Next up, I'd like to briefly talk about how Dawnbreaker's E works. I just want to make sure everyone fully understands how this spell works, as I wasn't even fully sure going into this video how this ability works. And I'm talking about the E, Luminosity. So as he walks up to this jungle camp here, let's briefly observe what happens. By the way, he maxed it out. I think this is something you can do on core Dawnbreaker, but I have also seen at the same time a lot of maxed out Qs. I think the reason why some players are shifting away from maxing out Q is the reality is it just doesn't scale that well. It scales okay, but it's nothing crazy, right? It's definitely nothing crazy. And so let's get into the E. Any opponents you hit, proc the Jingu. So like for Monkey King, it's much different, right? For Monkey King, when you proc your Jingu, let's say you boundless strike 4 heroes, you don't instantly get Jingu. Even though that would be cool, that's not how it works, right? At all. You would just get 1 stack of Jingu on top of the person, but Dawnbreaker is kind of like the opposite. Every unit you hit in your AoE with your Q gives you a stack. So in the laning stage, that's a really useful tip to know, right? To make sure you're using your Q on creeps and the heroes at the same time to make sure you're building up charges, and you can see it crits down the camp and heals them up. And that's what's really nice about maxing out this spell. You can constantly heal yourself every single time your Q is off cooldown. It's extremely efficient. The next concept I'd like to talk about is not necessarily Dawnbreaker specific, but I would like to talk about the fact that Sammy Boy is currently 4-4 on this hero with very little CS. And I was mentioning it earlier, I just want to go a little bit in depth about it while we watch his gameplay. I'm just going to let it play out and talk for a little bit. But you could see he's buying wards for himself. He's invading the enemy jungle. He's playing very aggressive. He's not jungling almost ever. He's killed a couple camps here and there. You know, sometimes there's just not a clear play to be made. But for the most part, he's putting himself in positions to set up kills and primarily focusing on shutting down enemies, right? So let's say you're playing Enchantress, guys. I just want to give this example so you guys can think about the game in a bit of a more example way. Let's say you're playing Enchantress. If you juggle with Enchantress, what's the problem with that? Even if the hero was to jungle quickly, which Enchantress does, right? What's the problem with that? What's the problem with constantly jungling on a hero like Enchantress? The problem with that is you're missing out on your hero's potential, the fact that not many heroes can kill you and not many heroes can even bother you, right? And so if you're playing Dawnbreaker and you're constantly taking safe farm and never dying, you're not going to be forcing any rotations. In fact, you're going to be taking farm away from the heroes that actually need it. The reality is Dawnbreaker, while items are great and the hero does scale, you don't really need them, right? As much as a hero like Troll Warlord or Anti-Mage, right? Yeah, because keep in mind, his team has a Troll Warlord, offlane, and an Anti-Mage. Actually, is this jungle? I don't even know. I don't know. But the reality is, look at his team. And this is where most players, right, keep in mind, look at the 2 drafts right now, okay? Look at the 2 drafts. I'm actually going to keep the gameplay going. If you were to look at this game, most people would instantly GG out. They would say, the game is over, I cannot play this match, you know, it's just too hard, right? I have a techies, I have 2 hard carries, I have an ancient apparition who even picks that hero, even though the hero is great, but he's still winning the game. In fact, he's crushing the game, and the score is really close. How is this even possible? Right, think about it. How in the world does the score 21-25 and they're 10k ahead? It's because if you were to watch this game back, every time Sammy Boy makes a play, it forces the enemy team to commit usually a Venom ulti, AA ulti, Pudge ulti, Pudge rotation, AA ulti, Venom rotation, Storm rotation. They have to bring in like 3-4 heroes to kill him. And so those heroes are not farming. Those heroes are not pressuring AM and Troll, which are the main heroes that need to farm. And so Sammy Boy understands his purpose in this game. Look at where he's playing. This is why, what rank is he? I think he's like 10 or something like that. 30. This is why he's ranked 30. It's because he's really not afraid to die. And like, even in this clip here, yeah, you could argue this is a mistake. Of course it's a mistake. He's dying, okay, right? He's dying. He went a little bit too far. I agree with that. I'm sure he would agree with that as well. But the reality is, same thing. His Anti-Mage and his Troll is farming. You don't want to die. The goal is not to die, but the goal is definitely to take risks so that your teammates don't die. You see what I'm saying? There's not enough farm on the map to go around for 3 heroes. It just simply does not work, at least like efficient farm, right? I'm talking about like push the lane jungle, like you're not gonna get that on 3 heroes in almost any Dota game. It just doesn't exist, and so someone kind of needs to take the brunt. I'm not saying just kill yourself. I feel like people are gonna take the wrong way and be like, yeah, I'm running down mid because you know, Speed told me to. Yeah, I watched a GameLeap video and he said, yeah, if you have a greedy team comp, just run down mid and you're gonna win. It's not what I'm saying. You have to find this nice balance where you're shutting down the enemy, you're putting yourself in a position to push in lanes, shut down enemy cores, and maybe supports, right? But most importantly, not die, right? You are going to die at some point or another, but you're doing your best to put yourself in that medium position. And in fact, talking more about this, I go into depth. I do a full replay analysis where I even play out this scenario a lot on the GameLeap website. It will be uploaded eventually there, probably in a few days. It's an Enchantress replay analysis that I do. And yeah, I feed relentlessly, but even in the fights, I create space, I tank the spells, I get gone on, and so my cores, my DPS cores, were able to play aggressively, right? They're able to do the damage. In fact, as you can see in this fight here, is Troll's getting gone on. Troll's in a bad spot, he's got no BKB, he's orchided. Now Sammy Boy goes in. I think he's good enough to know that this is probably suicide, right? It's probably suicide. He's hopping into the middle of 3 heroes, he doesn't see the other heroes, and yeah, he's gonna eventually get gone on, but once again, what's the reality? He's a 2900 HP hero with 25% status resist, healing, mobility, and his anti-mage is split pushing bottom. He even Qs forward. And so even though this is quite a mediocre fight, in fact, I would even call it a horrendous fight from the perspective of like kills, once again, who is free farming? Who's winning? The Storm Spirit, actually. Nah. Yeah, once again, that's not like some great fight for them. I think like the key there, the best optimal play, is that they only hemorrhage like 1 kill and get out. But you see what I'm saying? And so anytime you're playing this Dawnbreaker hero, really the reason why I'm harping on this so much is she's incredibly good at this. Incredibly good at this. She has like a global teleport, so you can play alone and then TP into a fight, right? You're basically Nature's Prophet. You guys know how Spectre plays and Prophet plays? You do that, except you play even more aggressive and you play for solo kills. You see what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense. That's a little bit more advanced. I don't typically do this in YouTube videos, but I did want to talk about a little bit about theory today, rather than focus too much on this hero and just like what the spells do, because I think most people know at this point. There's plenty of videos talking about it. And so yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and hope you learned a lot. I know this video was a little bit different from the average one, but maybe you enjoyed this more free-flowing, free talk. If you did, let me know. And yeah, like, subscribe, go get a GameLeap sub if you haven't already. If you like this type of talk and you don't have a GameLeap sub, well, that's where you're gonna find the most of it. And I'll see you in the next one. And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the GameLeap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.